All right, let's get down to business. This is part two of Nurse Ratched is Not Evil. So, the Netflix show Ratched came out, and a lot of people were talking about it, and I saw it. I think it's really good. It's a Ryan Murphy thing. You can tell it's a Ryan Murphy thing. The colors, the like he's just so good at making a story that is cohesive. Like I only have a problem with like 2 seasons of American Horror Story, but it's like that's it. There are 2 seasons that are just jacked that they need to like fix some down somewhere down the line, like in a movie or something. I don't know. But let's get back to Nurse Ratched. It's good, entertaining. I have some issues with it, but I'll discuss that later. So it's a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Follows Ratched as she weasels her way into an asylum-like hospital for the supposed mentally ill. I say that because they accept wrongfully diagnosed women for being gay, which is because of the doctor and his head nurse before Ratched takes the title. Nurse Ratched even has sympathy for those wrongfully and inhumanely treated. The motivation for her manipulation and devious deeds are for her brother. Spoiler alert. Like, out of everyone in the show, yet again, just like in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you can find people, or what McMurphy was basically like the only character who could be looked at and say, okay, well, he's not mentally ill. He's not mentally ill. The difference between being mentally ill and crazy is you know that you're crazy. You don't know you're mentally ill until you're diagnosed. But you can be crazy and mentally ill like Kanye West. But I digress. Nurse Ratched is one of the least evil of the main cast. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it was McMurphy, like I said. In Ratched, it's the doctor, his former patient, his mom, the governor, and Nurse Ratched's brother. Let's start with the beginning. I'm only going to go down episode 1 because any other episode, if I keep talking about it, it like spoils everything. I'm going to talk about like the baseline of it, but I feel like it doesn't do it justice to talk about the whole thing as a whole. Like, you have to watch it. And here's a synopsis basically if you were trying to get into it for like the first episode. So, Nurse Ratched is shown to be cunning and manipulative, but not evil. Actually, the show begins with a murder of priests by who we later learn is the adopted brother of Ratched. She jumps through hoops to help him because she and him were abused, sent home to home, and unloved. Before the climax of the show, later down the line, Nurse Ratched weasels her way into the state hospital where he's supposedly going to be held. We don't know that yet, so... She uses a letter to fool the doctor, Dr. Hanover, into hiring her. However, she comes across the first obstacle. You'd think security would be like the first obstacle, but they just let her in for an appointment. No. It's this woman, Nurse Bucket. She instantly is rejected. She's like, get out of here. Who are you? What's this letter? This isn't him. He and I are the only ones that work here at the top. And she's like, well, can I stay? And she's like, well, I guess you can. And she's like, okay, I will. And then she's like, okay. So, all while that's happening, Dr. Hanover is trying to talk to the governor. We don't know why yet, but they're like, oh, see you next month. Like, he's been doing this for a while. I'm pretty sure it's like a equal exchange thing. He wants funding, and he's probably not looking at it at this point. It doesn't show that he's like caring about anybody else but himself, which is like one way Dr. Hanover is evil. This dude, Dr. Hanover, I gotta tell you, he's like a part of every other subplot of the show. Every other subplot of this show. Like, he could be considered evil, angry, destructive, unpredictable. Evil. Dr. Hanover wants to see the governor, like I said. An evil person. Another thing is, if you see someone evil, they're often working with another evil person. he wants to pitch something into him, but this dude's like, I could care less, get out of my face. Ratched doesn't look at black people like they stink anymore, but she just looks worried, I guess. If you see the show, you'll notice, like, she looks kind of worried when she sees a black person, and he looks like he can tell, is like, okay, because it's like every black person can tell when someone's being a certain way to you, so you're just like, you can tell his face is like that. But she finally gets to talk to this dude after him being angry. Like, Nurse Ratched lingers about until the doctor returns. He treats his dutiful head nurse like trash, telling her to get rid of someone he doesn't have an appointment with, aka Nurse Ratched. After causing a little hissy fit in his office, he finally does the thing that he was going to do before he broke something that didn't need to be broken, and talks to her, and he literally just throws up his anger out on her. He's like, are you the one? And she's like, yes, I am the one. Which is cool. And it's one of those things, like, this is another spoiler. Nurse Ratched is gay. And she seems like the person that's like, oh, I'm not gay, and then she is gay. But she's got a lot of issues in her life that it's like sexuality is hard for her. So regardless if she was straight or gay, she would still have that issue where she was just like against like intimacy in a way that would be beneficial to her. But I digress. So they go into his office. She turns his misguided rage energy into like her own energy. She uses passive yet stern determined energy, and she ends up in his office, where he has his nurse slave, Nurse Bucket, cleaning his baby tantrum mess. She tells him of her accomplishments, as you do in an interview to show that you're qualified. She gets graphic. She tells him about the time in the war and aiding soldiers. She tries to get in, but fails because they have no openings. And he doesn't have enough money, which I told you is like, I think he's trying to go to the governor for funding and stuff. But it plays a part later. She leaves. Nurse Bucket is seen as more of a villain. Like, if she were just go back into One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it seems like Nurse Bucket was the one that everyone was watching, and not Nurse Ratched, who was just standing there and sitting there and literally just quietly doing nothing. Well, McMurphy goes crazy and plays games, but whatever. So, she, like, earlier, I didn't talk about this, but she went to the bathroom before the interview and saw a girl with the man. She goes to her house and sees a husband and daughter, so of course, a shakedown occurs. Ratched wants her job because there's no openings for a new nurse, but there would be an opening if someone left. So in exchange for her silence, this girl's like, okay, I'll leave. She doesn't do it at first, like, she doesn't want to do it, but she's just like, oh, for your kids. She threatens her family with nothing. She literally went to her house, picked up a toy off the yard that anyone could have done, and then gives it to her and says, for your daughter, making it seem like, oh, I know where you live. Everyone, like, the mailman knows where you live. So it's like, Miss Ratched didn't do anything that, like, would warrant someone to be worried. She could have been like, I'll go to the police, but she didn't. Not like, it's like, okay, here's the deal. There are so many people in this series that can be looked at as evil, but everyone's talking about how Nurse Ratched is evil. People said Nurse Ratched was evil before this show. So this show reflects what people believe Nurse Ratched to be. She suffers from Jason complex. And this is a new term that I've coined that it actually makes sense. What they do is they make a monster out of what people fear. So in Friday the 13th, Jason is not the killer. Spoiler, it's his mother, the one who actually lived. Jason died as a boy, a little boy. So how is he like 6'10", like built like a lumberjack, and killing people. Because that was what people wanted to see. They did not want to see continuously, even though it was the best Friday the 13th was the first one. She was a woman. They're going to take that away from her and make her this decrepit old head. Like she died old and crusty. She was not old and crusty. She was limbo. She freaking like killed people. She ran and chased people. She murdered people. She was the original murderer. But alas, instead of actually giving she could be considered a villain. I would accept that. I would accept that because she was killing people. But she was actually doing it. And yet again for a guy. Like, it can be just like in this show. Like, I'm not going to talk about this, but you have to watch the show. Because there are a lot of people in here that it's just like you can go in there and be like, okay, I understand that out of all these people, Nurse Ratched is the least evil. But in this show, there's this woman who does things in the name of her son. However, this son does not deserve this. In Friday the 13th, Jason was killed by negligence. So one could make the argument that Miss Voorhees was doing a deed that could be looked as sympathetic rather than sadistic. But I digress. So, whatever. She went to she got her job, and then the governor, assistant, or whatever, like, the campaign manager speaks to Dr. Hanover about helping the man who, prior to needing him for re-election, wouldn't give him the time it took for his drinks to be ordered to speak to him because his hospital is about to house an infamous violent criminal. So Dr. Hanover is forced to hire Miss Ratched because he's suddenly short-staffed and needs people because a lot of things are happening. Now they have Edward on the way, the governor in the business of the hospital, and the press everywhere. For some reason, Dr. Hanover doesn't wish to be photographed, which plays a part in why I say he's evil, and you have to watch the show, because I'm not going to go too deep into it. So, while all this is going on, Nurse Ratched saves a priest, in front of everyone. Nurse Bucket clocks that it was manufactured. The governor, being the conniving political leech he is, stages patience in front of the camera to make himself look sympathetic to the mentally ill. The evil governor wants the priest saved in hospital story to run because it appears he's jealous of the murderer getting all the attention. He uses like a meaningless woman instead of like, you know, the guy to run the story, because they keep the cameramen keep asking, oh, so what about Edward? What about Edward? What about? And he seems to be getting upset at that. So he grabs Nurse Ratched and puts her there, and it's like, okay, you saved him. And then he leans on her, a man she doesn't know, and she says, hey, I don't like that. Stop. And then this is supposed to show something that I don't like. It's kind of annoying. Every time there's a woman who has conviction, strong, strength, powerful in her speech, they make her gay. I think this situation is kind of annoying, because why does every woman who has strength and convictions and ambition automatically turned gay? That is showing a masculine trait in our society. That's how it is. Just like the Legend of Korra. Y'all made Korra gay because she was strong. Y'all made that other woman gay because she was strong. Like, y'all keep doing this. It's kind of annoying. Stop. For the last time. I'm sick of seeing it. There can be gay women in a thing that's not, it's either the bubbly, doubly gay woman or the strong butch woman. And it's like, come on. People are like, we're better than this. Like, what's it called? Montrose on, what's it called? Lovecraft Country. He's a gay man. Gay men come in all shapes and sizes in media and in pop culture. And there are some stereotypes that y'all continuously perpetuate. And one of those include making women who want in life, other than to be a dutiful wife and dutiful mother, to be gay. And it has to stop. And if it doesn't stop with you, it will stop with me. I will create a story in which there are people, not stereotypes. And I digress. So, Mildred talks to the dude the governor plopped up for photo ops. She confides in him of her past, putting emphasis on the fact that she is alone, robbed of her childhood brother and parents. She does something that reflects the end of One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest. And, like, you know, the suicide scene, the one blamed on Ratched, she mercifully tells him there's no escape but death. She personally walks him into the office to kill himself. First of all, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was McMurphy who gave everyone alcohol in that place. He didn't know what medications they were taking. It could cause people to feel like different in their mind, and they already have mental illness. So that's just adding salt in the wound. It's insane that no one ever put that connection together. And he straight out committed suicide right after in the office of the doctor, in the doctor's office. Nurse Ratched did not orchestrate that. She did not put something in there so that he would kill himself. And if she did in the novels, it did not show. I did not see that in the movie. They did a poor job at showing that, if that's what it is. But that's basically, clearly, a breakneck nod to the end of that movie. The doctor questions Ratched about the priest's mysterious shock and miraculous recovery, but they are interrupted by the suicide in his office. Technically the bathroom, but he got the letter opener and slit his throat, I guess, in the mirror. Like, Ratched is calm while the doctor's flipping out. Everyone's still in the building. She insists on helping him, but of course, not without a price. So the governor references meat cuts when talking about Nurse Ratched as he leaves. Not her professionalism or her capabilities, but her body. At the end of the first episode, we see Edward arrive. Finally, the one that was built up. I think they do a pretty good job building him up. It's really nice. Ratched visits him in a Hannibal setup-like cell with bars, not glass, for reasons you'll see when you watch it. She cries upon seeing him, her brother, if you don't already know that, whom she makes a promise to that he won't die, which, remember that. Keep that in mind. The other characters I spoke about in the beginning, like the doctor's patient and his mom, I can't talk any more about that without spoiling a lot of the show. And they have nothing to do with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I basically just covered every angle of which, like, I can make claim that Nurse Ratched was not originally supposed to be evil. And even if you keep going and watch what happened to her, you can say she's problematic. You can say she's disturbed. But you cannot say she is evil without also putting into perspective the people around her who do not get called evil and therefore worse. But her ambitions are geared towards simping for a violent criminal, not personal gain. In fact, by the end of this, it does nothing but put herself in more danger to even be associated with this man. So it's just, I don't know, that whole situation where people are like, Nurse Ratched's evil. It's like, there are so many other people you could talk about as evil. Like, yeah, Freddy Krueger's evil. There are a lot of, like, she just doesn't fit in that caliber of people. Like, they make it seem. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, she straight up just sat in her seat and was calm. Like, she didn't orchestrate anyone's death. She didn't force someone to kill themselves. She didn't manipulate someone into stealing their job. I mean, the movie's not in her perspective. The show is kind of in her perspective for the most part. But you have to watch the show, because that's just basically a rundown of episode 1. There are a few more episodes. Ryan Murphy, like I said, does a good job at having enough episodes to go full circle and completely understand the story without any other questions, and also making you want more at the same time. Nurse Ratched isn't evil. Nurse Ratched is not evil. There's no reason to call her evil. If you watch the show, watch the movie first. If you can get through it without sound or any soundtrack whatsoever, watch the show, because it's very good, very entertaining. I would even consider Nurse Ratched to be maybe mentally ill. Maybe. But not evil. Watch out for the Death Note video I'm making. It will probably premiere either the day before Halloween or Halloween itself. I am very excited for that. I was going to do Twilight, but I really can't do that. I'm probably going to do Twilight, like, maybe, I don't know. I really don't know when I'm going to do Twilight, because I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch them, and I don't want to, like, I can't. It's hard for me to watch them. I may just, like, watch a synopsis or something, but yeah, that's it. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. I am posting quite frequently. I like to play video games. I stream almost daily on Twitch. RIP Mixer. It was a very good run, but I'm gonna go. Good game. I'm done.